Hey everybody, my name is MetalMusicMan.
And I'm Professor Lex.
And this is a podcast, episode number 18.
18. Do you look this up before we start?
No, I just remember it. And then I have a panic attack that I didn't remember it, so what I'm doing right now is checking.
You're double checking.
Sure.
We've got our fact checkers.
And the last one was 17,
scene.
and so it is 18. I just kind of weirdly remember it. I don't know why.
Good. So one of us has to. I'm just gonna panic and let the numbers wash over me. I'm faking my second win now.
You're faking it?
Yeah. Don't I seem awake and coherent?
I guess you fooled me.
That's my stage persona. That's my presence.
You called out your arson.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were both
took enough damage.
We were both feeling extremely old and dead before starting the stream, so I made us some coffee white Russians, which I'm about halfway through. Mixing our downers and our uppers. Yeah, I'm about halfway through. Got to get a little bit of upper in there every now and then just to, fuck with your body. Because reasons.
That's what it is. Good thing you got this pop filter here.
Speaking of, yeah, it is useful. Speaking of alcohol things, I went over to Hylian's house the other day. Yesterday. And played some Smash with him. And I brought him a 6-pack because he never fucking has alcohol. No, I brought him a 12-pack.
Wow, that's so much beer. Was it Stag?
No, Modelo.
Oh,
Modelo.
Yeah.
I mean, Mexican Stag,
sure.
Basically. Yeah. So, which I love.
Much lighter than Stag.
Modelo is a lot better beer than Stag, too. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Stag is a surprisingly good beer.
It is the best shit beer.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not even close. It beats
Bar
everything.
None. Yeah.
And then it also punches far above its weight into your shitty Budweiser piss beer. It's way better than all that.
No, fuck Budweiser. That's
fuck all that shit. Yeah. But Modelo is, because it's not American. I've never found an American beer that like remotely was similarly good to any rent. It could be from anywhere. I don't care. It could be from like a fucking locker at the bottom of the ocean.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah,
again.
well, you're probably right. Yeah, it's made by some random crab person who the world doesn't know about. I don't know. It's going to be better because
Lumerians.
Yeah. American beer, man. Lumerians?
Yeah, that's Atlantis.
Oh, okay. My brain like processed the word and then was like, yes, those, and just didn't. And then there was like a delay. There was like
wait.
I had rollback netcode and it was like, wait a minute.
Oh, that was so good. See?
I
told you the rollback was the future.
I don't actually know what Lumerians are. Anyway, so I brought Hylian this 12-pack and I drank like 2 of them and he didn't have any because he's like a bitch who never drinks and I don't understand why he should be more depressed and drink more alcohol.
Hell yeah. We're well adjusted.
Yeah, come on, man. Like we're fine. I function. Get out of here.
Yeah, I went to work all day today and I only wanted to drink like for the last 2/3. The last 2/3 of it. I'm good. I haven't actually had a beer at lunch in a really long time at work because I can't bring myself to sit in at the restaurants because COVID. Oh, yeah. And I can't get a beer to go because religion or something. Yeah, so they'll notice.
So I just don't get a beer. But I used to get beer at lunch all the time.
I have never had a beer at lunch.
Oh, it feels... The rest of that
Is it refreshing?
The rest of the day feels so much better if you have a beer lunch.
Do you get tipsy after like one beer?
God, no.
Okay. So it's just the being free.
One beer is nothing. Yeah. That's just nothing. I mean, there's an effect, but it's not. I'm sure it's not tipsy. Notable. Tipsy is not the effect. For me to notice anything, it has to be 2 beers at least, and 2 beers is still, unless it's like some. I'm crazy, stupid, high percent beers, notwithstanding. I don't count that. That's not what we're talking about. But like a normal 2 beers is like
2 Stags.
Still probably not tipsy.
Yeah, no, hell no.
Probably not. Alpha 2, maybe, but probably not. Like 2 Guinnesses is no. That's not. That's not really doing anything.
I'm a big boy, so I need to drink a lot of beer to feel anything.
I feel like I can never decide. Okay, hang on. Let me finish the story about Hylian before.
You're good. You're good.
The end of the story is he texted me today and he was like, "Hey nerd, you left your 12-pack at my house," and I was like, "Yeah, that's your beer now, you dumbass.
That's the cut.
That was the point." And then he goes, "Oh, cool. I'll definitely finish this 12-pack in at least a year." And I was just like, "What's wrong? What is wrong with you?"
I mean, I guess if he's like exclusively a social drinker, good on him for being able to practice responsible drinking habits and making it a social activity instead of a coping mechanism or whatever.
I truly don't understand that though, because to me, I just enjoy
the taste
beverages.
Yeah.
I enjoy them, and like if I'm being social with people, I don't drink or not drink really based on that. Like I drink with people who also drink,
Sure, you don't drink with people who don't drink. That's weird.
Well,
I'm not going to drink in front of like a teetotaler
a teetotaler?
Someone who doesn't drink.
A teetotaler.
Teetotaler. Teetotaler.
I don't know what that word is.
What does that mean? One who does not drink.
Why is it that word?
Like who plays Britta in Community?
I haven't seen Community. I've only seen clips of Community.
Gillian Jacobs. Gillian Jacobs is a teetotaler. Donald Trump is a teetotaler.
I don't. What does the word mean? Why
that they don't drink?
But why is that a word?
God, I don't know. I look like an etymologist to you?
I thought you would know
sorry.
The origins of that word.
No idea.
And to be fair, you do look like a fucking etymologist. You tie-wearing glasses, having you piece of shit. You're not wearing a tie today, but
you could have given the stream ties.
That's where you get your astuteness, you know?
You could have let the stream have that delusion that I'm constantly wearing a tie.
Well, you used to constantly be wearing a tie.
Well, that's because I wear a tie to a tournament because it makes me feel like a handsome boy.
Yes.
And
you have become a less, I believe we've said specifically,
less handsome
a less
boy.
tied entity to me.
Yes. Well, but that's because you see me outside of tournaments. It's not just every once in a while.
It's because we're a real couple now.
Yes.
So now
we're going steady.
I've seen you without your makeup, your tournament makeup. Oh, no. Anyway, shit, there was a side point.
We were talking about drinking in front of Noe.
Oh, yeah. The socially drinking. Okay, so like I don't really. I had 2 beers while Jordan wasn't drinking when we were playing Smash, and damn him for all eternity. But I'll be damned if I'm not going to enjoy a beer while I play some video games.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But that's kind of my point. Is like I feel like it's weirder. It's weirder to me that people are like, oh, everyone else is drinking. What? Well, I guess I better as well. Like, do you even enjoy it? Because I feel like if you don't enjoy it and you're only drinking a beer because everyone else is drinking a beer,
that's
if that
just
were
peer
how
pressure.
I felt, I would just not drink, which is actually how I was until I was like, shit. I think people find this hard to believe, but I did not. The first time I had an alcoholic beverage, I was like barely not already 21. I was like 20 and a half or something. And then even then, I didn't really like any of them. It was like I drank a bunch of vodka to get fucked up, and it was like, well, we got fucked up, and I shit black for 2 days and got alcohol poisoning and literally slept for like 19 hours. And my mom was like,
you're describing a near-death experience.
Chicken noodle soup, and then I barfed it up, and I was just like, this is the worst thing. I mean, just because you don't know what being drunk feels like the first time you get drunk. You're like being goofy,
sure,
but you just keep drinking until you're like so far past. Or at least that's what happened to me.
I've got a first time being drunk story.
Okay.
Yeah. People who know me well have heard this before, but so it was New Year's Eve at some odd, and I was going over to my friends Joe and Allison's, and we were doing like a New Year's Eve party, and everyone had brought alcohol, and I wanted to bring alcohol.
How old are you?
I'm of drinking age. I bought my own whiskey. I think I was like 25 or something, and I brought over a bottle of Maker's Mark, bottle of Maker's Mark, because I wanted to enjoy myself. I thought I would bring something to share, something tasty with my friends, and none of my friends had seen me drunk before. Like I'd been tipsy.
I don't think I've ever seen you drunk.
You haven't. It takes a lot of alcohol.
Have you ever seen me drunk?
I don't think so.
I feel like I've been borderline at some of the more festive Smash Fests I've hosted, or
probably
the more goofy tournaments. But interesting.
We drink, but not to excess.
Similar. I think that's why we compat with the drinking. It's like we have a similar pattern and tolerance. Yeah.
So I went over there and I brought my bottle of Maker's Mark, and my friends had never seen me drunk before. And little did I know, Allison was out to kill me. So she
for other reasons that we don't know about because of the mystery.
Well, maybe. Yeah. I mean, if this is an orthodox mystery I'm trying to tell, then we don't know her motives yet.
Okay.
And to this day, I still don't. So
if
you're aware,
let me
know.
Don't. We still don't. Oh, God. Okay. All right.
So she went in to see me drunk. That's the motive that she has for trying to kill me, as far as I understand it.
Yes. Okay. I understand now.
She says, do you want to use these whiskey stones? I've got them. They're cold. They're like ice. And I was like, I know what a whiskey stone is, Allison. Thank you. And I would love them. And thank you so much for your hospitality. And so I pour, my glass, 2-3 fingers of Maker's Mark, right? And I would set my drink down and carry on because it was a whole big party and I was talking to everybody there. And anytime I sat my drink down, unbeknownst to me, she would come by with the Maker's Mark bottle and top me off. So I was constantly at 3 fingers throughout the entire night. I drank like that bottle or the vast majority of that bottle. And I got fucked up.
Yeah.
And I never knew. It was the perfect crime. Because since I was using the whiskey stones, if I had been using ice, I would be able to tell when it was getting watered down. Yep. I would have some sense of progression when I was drinking. But since it was the whiskey stones, I had no idea. I just constantly felt like I was drinking that first of 3 fingers of whiskey the entire night. Yeah. And anyway, I got like fucked up, drunk. I passed out. I was hungover for the next day straight. But it's okay because I got my revenge. In a drunken stupor, half asleep, trying desperately not to die, I stumbled into their bathroom and threw up in their sink.
Nice.
Yes. Not a conscious decision, but I did do it.
But you did do it.
Yeah, I did do
it.
Good. Yeah. So that's the last time I was like drunk.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't get like drunk too often, but there has been an uptick in it the last like 2 or 3 months because I've been, as you are aware, I've been participating in the Mythic Dungeon drinking night Fridays, which there'll be one tonight that I think I'll probably skip, but maybe not. We'll see.
See how the night goes.
Yeah. But they do this group of friends that I know through WoW. They do like dungeons, and you run the Keystone. I think we've talked about it, so I won't waste too much time. But there have been 1 or 2 times in those that I have gotten like way more shit-faced than I realized. And I think an interesting thing that I noticed, and I don't know if it's true or not. I have to do more science. But the main thing with all the alcohol that I have consumed in my life is that most of it hasn't been like whiskey, bourbon, that kind of, your own.
Oh yes,
your own drinks.
Meow.
Even when I drink like tequila, I love tequila. But I love Blanco tequila, which is your non-manly tequila. If you're subscribing to that,
doesn't put hair on your chest.
That degree of bullshit.
Sure.
So
there's no worm in the bottle, right?
Not that, and also it's not barrel aged, which for some reason barrel aged goes hand in hand with because
barrel chested. Yes,
sure,
it's there in the name.
Because America, because manliness. Yes. I don't know, but so I have been getting into rye whiskey more recently in the last 6 months. Rye whiskey and Japanese whiskeys specifically. And I actually really like those quite a bit. I would say I like them almost as much as a Blanco tequila, which is shocking because I always thought I didn't like, bourbon or whiskey. But specifically rye and the Japanese rice whiskeys I love. And anyway, long story short, the drunk is, I think, different. I had never in my life been blackout drunk ever.
Yeah.
Even the first time I drank and got so shit-faced. I remember, I'm not going to say I have like a crystal clear memory of everything, but I remember pretty much everything that happened. I remember just being drunk and ridiculous, but I remember most of it. Like, I don't feel like I have any memory loss, quote unquote, beyond it being a really fucking long time ago, But we did this dungeon run, and I've been drinking a lot of whiskey during COVID, but I drink a lot, but I just kind of maintain, the buzz.
Yeah. Because you want to feel good, but you don't want to get
right on the line of tipsy, and that's about it. Because more than that, you're risking hangover, and that's no fun for anybody.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, I'm just not trying to do that. So anyway, we did like a raid. We did like a 5-man raid of old content, and I remember the next day, someone like mentioned that when we were talking in Discord when I was like hungover, and I went, shit, did we do that? Like, I feel like I definitely remember saying we should do that, and someone was like, oh yeah, it was your idea. And I was like, yeah, I remember that part, but I was like,
and that's when it starts to get hazy?
Did we do it? And they were like, oh yeah, we did it. And I was just like, fuck, I couldn't distinguish between the memory of deciding to do it and what we'd actually done. And that is the first time that's ever happened to me, because I felt like pretty much my entire life, I always felt like people were full of shit when it came to blackout drunk. And to be honest, I still feel like
there's a degree.
85% of the time they are.
But
I still feel like 85% of the time they are. But I usually feel like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so that's the first time I've ever, and I don't even know that I would still
call it blackout because, and apparently there are, that's a whole weird tolerance thing. Like you'd mentioned at the top of the podcast, like that you are a big boy. And there is, I think, some correlation with that, but I don't think it's definitive.
There's
like
some.
I am not big boy at all.
You're not. No,
and
I've got
I
like
have
100
way
pounds
higher
on me.
alcohol tolerance than most people I know. I think the other one that could explain me or could be as bullshit as your weight is apparently blonde hair, blue eyes is high alcohol tolerance. Apparently
who knows?
Apparently that's a thing. I've heard that one. So, but I don't know how much, I mean, and that's, I don't know how much of any of that is wives' tales versus science versus, because I know that you hear shit about like Andre the Giant drinking literally like 12 bottles of wine, and he was a huge dude. But I've also definitely known big people that do not do not handle alcohol at all, remotely.
The blood alcohol content thing, which is a reflection to a certain degree of your drunkenness, is impacted by the amount of blood that you have. And like, I don't have much more blood than you, but I do have more blood than you by virtue of just being a larger guy.
Do you think you do?
I mean, I got to, right?
But you're also shorter than I am.
Yeah, but again,
what do you weigh, like 220?
I used to weigh 220. After COVID, I'm down to 204.
That's smexy.
Thank you.
That's a good slim.
I'm svelte.
That's svelte.
I've been trimming down.
What are you, like 5'9"?
I am 5'11". If we round to the nearest inch. No.
Oh, shit. Okay, then yeah, you are just bigger than me.
Yeah, I'm
I thought
a big
for some
guy.
reason you were way shorter than me.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Jen does that same shit. My girlfriend constantly claims that I am a short man. Which isn't fair.
I would have bet money.
Which isn't fair.
I don't think I would have bet you were short.
5'10" and 3/4.
I don't think that's literally my exact height, which is why I say 5'11", just because it's easier.
But that doesn't add up because you are taller than me.
Well, then you're not 5'10" and 3/4.
Or you're not.
We should measure. And here's the thing.
Whip out the ruler,
We'll do this after the podcast. Here's the reason. I always feel strongly about this because my entire life, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm skinny or because I've had spiked hair and now I have the swoosh hair and there's hair on top of my head. I don't know what it is. But everyone will come up to me and they'll be like, Will, you are 6'1". And I'm just like, no.
That seems about right.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yeah, no. I'm 5'11". And then routinely.
You're not 5'11".
I am. And I swear to fucking God, Alex, yeah. I swear to God, if we fucking measure you and you end up being 5'9" and you are one more person that has done this to me in my life, I don't know what it is. There are all these fucking dudes. There are all these fucking dudes that have convinced themselves that they are 5'11".
No, hold on.
They have convinced themselves they're 5'11". So they come to me and they go, Will, you have to be 6 foot or 6'1". Because your driver's license
5'10". It's on my driver's license.
People lie on that shit.
Legally, I am 5'10".
Get the fuck out of people. People lie on that shit. They'll be like, Will, you have to be 6'1" because I'm 5'11" and you're 2 inches taller than me. And they get this logic. This has happened with, I shit you not, this has happened with so many fucking people. And then I make them.
It'll be different with me, Will.
And then they're like, wow, you are 5'11". That's so weird. I guess I must be too. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to measure you now, right? And then they,
no, I'm going to go first.
They fucking do the tiptoe shit. And I got to be like, flatten your fucking feet. And then they're, oh, God forbid, they're 5'9". God forbid. So I don't know. This has happened to me so many times. I'm
not 5'9".
Oh, Alex, I am so doubtful. I am so doubtful of that right now. No. The fact, okay, you were fine. I had no doubt at all until you were like, it sounds right that you're 6 or 6'1", because I'm fucking not. I'm 5'11", barely. No. I'm actually not technically even 5'11".
You're 5'10" and 3/4". Fuck off. No, you're not.
Or some amount. Yes. So this, anyway, all right, we'll put
address
this to the test later. We'll put this to the test later.
We'll have this tussle.
If you guys wonder why we had a falling out, you'll know. You'll know when we have the Twitter
I can't see that guy. I can't fucking stand him.
Fuck that guy. And
I can't stand all 6'1" of him.
God damn it.
No part of me can abide his 61 inches.
I'm really tall, and I'm not.
You're not really tall.
I'm just not short.
You're tall.
I'm above average height because
right.
A lot of people, for some reason, don't realize that average height is like 5'8" or 5'9".
5'9" specific.
Yeah, one or abouts. But so yeah. But anyway, it's goof. It's goof. All right. Well, that's interesting. I'll let you guys know
looming
how
the sword of
unfolds.
Damocles over my head. You're trying to ruin my whole night, Will. It's 5:50 and I'm only one drink deep, and you were trying to ruin my whole night.
I'm going to crush your entire existence.
No.
This is like, okay.
My entire identity is founded on being 5'10" and 3/4 inches tall.
You might be crazy, dude. Like, seriously, this is like when you get in the penis measuring conversation with people. Like, everyone does that, right? It's not just me. No. Yeah. Anyway, so.
No, I'm very comfortable. I'm fine.
So you know how when you're talking to people about measuring their dicks? That's okay, never been
I've never had this conversation.
Okay, so
tell me about measuring your dick, Will.
Okay, this is the same shit. You've never measured your dick?
No.
What the fuck is wrong with you? This is just like when you said you don't have sex dreams.
I've never been concerned with it. I'm just fine.
Being concerned? That's like saying, are you concerned because you run a scientific experiment about what invisible spectrum of light there is in light rays? Like, no, it's a science experiment. I'm talking about penis science here, Alex.
Well, the most serious of sciences. Go ahead.
Okay, so sometimes you just need to know, and most of the time this occurs when you're like 18 and your dick gets bigger, and you're like, I wonder how big my dick is. So you measure your dick. Okay, so everyone does this. You're super weird. You're super weird for not measuring your dick. Tell us in the tweets.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us your dick size. Pardon me.
Did you measure it?
Just tell us if you measure it.
Okay, so I would get in conversations with like my friends and be like, oh yeah, how big is your dick? How big is your dick? How big is my dick?
What fucking conversations? What friends do you have?
Okay, no. You phrased that question wrong. The question should be, what friends did my friends have? And the answer is me. And that's why this conversation was a thing. So anyway.
It all adds up.
No, everybody measures their dick. You're weird for not doing it. You're super weird. So, okay. So here's the thing. So you measure your dick and you get like your ruler, your tape measure, or whatever the fuck.
Hypothetically.
And you measure your dick. And if you're not a fucking idiot, okay, you measure your dick from the top side.
From the top side.
Because scientifically, that's the only way to get an accurate measurement of your dick without running into and what do they call it? Spoiling the integrity of your scientific experiment by getting a false positive for measuring your fucking chode.
Oh, you don't want the underside.
Perineum. Yeah. You can't.
Yeah, it can't include the perineum.
I don't know what you know about
every
dicks.
Tom, Dick, and Harry knows that.
Your dick boner, when it's boned, it goes into your body. It goes into your body. Okay, so your dick like extends, like it's not just your dick on the outside.
I'm learning so much. Will, keep going.
Your shaft like comes out. I'm doing lots of hand gesticulation.
You guys can't see this, but I can.
But yeah, so I'm basically like massaging a tree trunk in front of myself for Alex right now. So anyway, your dick goes inside, right? And it also goes below and inside like your scrot sack and shit. So basically what would happen is I'd be talking to my friends and they'd be like, oh yeah, man, I have like a fucking 8.5-inch dick or whatever. And I'd be like, dear God, that's a giant penis. Congratulations. You know, my dick's like 6 on a good day. Okay. Like that's like the best day.
Hold on.
Like
when you say on a good
5
day.
and some, 5.5, 5 3/4. It's pretty average penis. Okay. It's pretty normal penis size. But my buddy was like, yeah, my dick is blah big. And I was like, that's crazy. And then I like went home and I like remeasured my dick and I'm like, there's no way everyone I know, like there are too many dudes with 8 or 9-inch dicks. There's no way everyone I know has an 8 or 9-inch dick.
It's rather unlikely.
Like you're not all packing that kind of heat, right? Like there were too many people in my friend group. So I'm like trying to think this out. So yeah, they're measuring. I call them out. I'm like, are you measuring from the bottom? And they're like, well, how else would I do it? I'm like, you don't have a fucking 9-inch dick. Get the fuck out of here. You're like, well, if I measure from the top, it's only like 7. And I'm like, yeah, that's how big your dick is, you fucking piece of shit. Like, fucking these motherfuckers. And then
no integrity.
And then like 2 of my friends were like, oh no, we definitely measure from the top. I'm like, all right, you get the fuck out of here.
Measured from the top down?
Take your fucking 8.5, 9-inch dicks and get the fuck away from me. You're not part of this conversation. But like, so anyway, it's the same shit. I feel like people like measure weird and then they think they're a height.
I didn't get those measurements. I didn't do those measurements.
Right,
that's from doctors.
Did you measure yourself from the bottom?
or no, I did it like everyone else does, from the tip of my toes to the back of the largest strand of hair on my head. Okay. Like everybody.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, that's it. That's all accurate then. Oh my God. So anyway, I feel like people don't know how to measure things, penises, their own heights. I can't believe you didn't measure your dick. That is so weird to me.
I'm fine.
I mean, I wasn't ever like, oh God, I'm terrified I have a tiny penis. I need to know. Like, I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know how big it was. Why do you measure your height?
I don't. Doctors do. So that I have something to say on my driver's license. What? If my driver's license was like age, weight, height, dick size, then maybe. But I'm not there. Society is not sufficiently advanced. It should be. Yeah.
We should advance to having the dick size on your driver's license. Okay. I think so. Must be this long to drive.
It's 2020.
So, oh my God. All right. Well, anyway, that was a conversation that went predictably off the rails for 25 minutes.
That was 25 minutes? No fucking way.
Well, we might have had like a couple minutes of extra time.
Hi, it's me.
Yeah, okay. But yeah. But so anyway, our actual topic today.
We had originally set out to talk about survival horror games. We were going to sit here and talking about survival horror video games, and I was going to be like, "Oh, Will, you don't know what you're talking about," and he was going to be like, "Oh, yes, I do. I've got a huge head," and then apparently we're talking about other things. Anyway. I know, right? Anyway, so since you guys paid to hear us talk about survival horror games, not Will's dick again, let me just open with, I'm a huge fan of the genre. I in particular, am a big fan of the Resident Evil franchise. If you go and look on YouTube, I don't have a custom URL because I don't have enough subscribers. If you look up Convenient Gaming, there's me, there's Jeff, there's me and my friends. We play Resident Evil all the time. We're going through all of them.
Okay.
We haven't made it yet.
Where are you now?
So on a scale from 0 to 7, we are at 5 currently.
Oh yeah, okay. You're chugging along.
Oh yeah, we've made some good strides. There's some side games in there, so the math isn't quite perfect. But in general, I would say that I have a lot of experience with Resident Evil games. On top of that, I found after Googling Dunning-Kruger today, that the more I come to know how much I know about Resident Evil games, the more I understand that there's a lot of survival horror games that I haven't played. And so while I'm not an expert, I would say that I know enough to tell you you're wrong and play more survival horror games.
The wrongness is stemming from the fact that I generally don't like the genre.
Correct.
So, okay.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I have not played a lot of them, so I'm not going to like...
Aha!
I'm not.
Burn the witch.
You've got me.
We got him.
I'm not gonna sit upon high and say that I know exactly that they're all dog shit, but I don't think I've never liked a full survival horror game. I don't think. I have liked games that have survival horror elements. For sure. I think the reason I don't like them, and you and I've gone over this, off cast,
sure.
But. So like long story short, your original Resident Evils are, in my opinion, literally unplayable. And I would put them in the same camp as like your original Metroid Prime, where the controls are just dog shit. They have nonsensical, it's not just your standard, left stick, right stick, which is already bad because it's a fucking FPS on a console, which is the worst thing of all time. And we're not even going there. You're all wrong, dying to fire. But so it's already bad for me, much less with on top of that, then you have like weird camera angles, the weird lock-on / change camera angle button that like Metroid Prime has, or like I feel like there was a similar turn type something in Resident Evil.
I can't vouch for Metroid Prime because I've played like the multiplayer mode in those games. So, I've never played the games.
So themselves. Yeah, and Metroid Prime is not a survival horror game, but the point of it is
it's got aspects.
It is a shooter-esque game that has controls that I think are unplayable. So that was my initial reason I never got into survival horror, is because the only ones I knew about were the old original, PS1 or whatever the fuck they were on.
Yes.
Or maybe Sega Saturn even. I don't even know.
Well, if we're going that far back, the original survival horror game, a lot of people will tell you is Resident Evil was the very first one. That's not true. Resident Evil itself was based on an earlier not based on, but inspired by an earlier Capcom title called Sweet Home, which is a game based on a movie in Japan. That it's like some weird survival horror RPG if you're looking at the NES title. But anyway, if we're talking about like when they finally figured it out and nailed it down, Resident Evil,
when it became a genre.
Yeah,
Kind of like when Street Fighter 2 was a game, fighting games existed.
Yes.
Street Fighter 1 was like, we don't really know what we're doing. This is sort of an arcade game.
Yep.
We don't know.
Karate Fighter.
And then suddenly Street Fighter 2 was like,
this is how it's
a
done.
genre now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Resident Evil, I would say,
game?
define the genre.
Which one?
Resident Evil.
Just
you'll
the
get
first one?
Yes, the very first one. You'll get people who will say it's Sweet Home, and you'll get people who say Alone in the Dark, or maybe Zombies Ate My Neighbors. But aside from that, yeah, Resident Evil is pretty much where we started. Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
My Neighbors? Isn't that like on SNES?
Is it SNES? I thought it was
it's like
Sega
a top-down
CD.
Game?
Yeah.
I played that game.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Congrats.
That's not survival horror.
Call up the end credits.
Wait,
this is it.
What?
We got them.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen.
No.
We got them. Was it
Hang on.
SNES? That's the only thing that's thrown me.
Bro, I played the shit out of this game with my friend in
Congratulations, you're a survival horror junkie.
This is not survival horror, though.
Fool.
How is this survival horror?
Okay.
Dude, I used to love this game. This is like top-down, isometric, fucking shooter adventure or whatever. No, wait a minute. There are some screenshots of first-person things, and I don't know what this is.
No, that's fake.
That's some other dumb shit.
Okay, it sounds fake.
It is the top-down shit then.
That is what I was talking about, yeah.
Dude, I played the shit out of this game.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that you're a classic survival horror nut.
No, what?
Yeah,
you just blown my mind.
Okay,
this is not survival horror.
If I may back up, I did say that the genre was defined at Resident Evil. So this was while survival horror was figuring out what it was.
Wikipedia titles it as a run and gun, which I am inclined to agree with and say that you make no sense.
Yeah, I mean, run and gun is more of a description of how you play it rather than the genre that it is.
No, run and gun is a genre. There are other games in the run and gun genre.
Yeah, but like you're talking about different aspects. Does it say if you control F horror? Does it say anything about survival horror?
It has monsters that are from horror movies. I mean, this is not I don't know this genre, so maybe I'm stupid, but I think you're insane. This is not a survival horror game.
Let me describe some aspects, because this is a video I actually did with Jeff once, where we were trying to nail down exactly what it is that makes a survival horror game a survival horror game.
Okay.
At the end of it, we came to the conclusion that a survival horror game usually uses a hostile environment and horror tropes, but the important thing is the relationship between the player's inability to contend with all of the monsters and horrors around them, and like a scarceness of resources, and using that to negotiate how they deal with the things.
I agree with that, and still don't see how it applies to Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Okay, well, I haven't played that one.
You ran around and got power-ups and stuff. It was Zombies Ate My Neighbors is like I remember it being like Toe Jam and Earl. It was like an isometric top-down 2-player pseudo RPG runny shooter thing. It was like I feel like.
Do you have scarce resources or no?
I mean, there were resources,
but were they scarce?
I don't.
That's
feel
the
like
important
they were.
part.
I feel like you farmed and got because I know what you're talking about. Because to me, I think I agree with what you just said.
Yes,
the words you just said.
Of course you do.
Because it's games where you don't have that. Most games are like a weird power fantasy. And even if you're scared, you might be scared because like I would use, Half-Life 2 as like an example of this, where you go to Ravenholm and you only have so many shotgun shells and you've got to make it through. And you do have like you said, you run out of resources.
Scarceness of resources
it becomes
that you have to negotiate.
Not so much a matter of can you kill all the things, because there are too many things to kill. You have to figure out how to escape.
Sure. Yep. That's an important survival horror aspect.
It's been literally probably 25 fucking years since I played
Zombies Ate
My Neighbors, so maybe I'm crazy, but I do not remember any. I feel like if it had those aspects, I would not have liked it, because I don't normally like those games.
Okay. So the thesis of this whole argument is you should play the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yes.
It's on Steam, so you won't bitch about the controls. Let me talk about the controls. So, Resident Evil came out in, 1996? The director's cut version probably came out in, 1997, 98 or something. So that would have made me somewhere between 6 and 8 years old. And I could play the game just fine, Will. So,
Okay, wait a minute, motherfucker. Hold up there. It's not about skill. It's about
no, it's not about skill. Yeah, no,
I just got into
because if it's so dumb.
Hero in Smash to Hylian yesterday when we were playing, and he was like, "He's not even OP." I'm like, "I'm not saying he's OP. It's not about it being hard or easy. It's about it being fucking dumb. And those controls are fucking dumb. And I don't want to subject myself to them.
Well, and that's the good news about the Resident Evil 2 remake.
You're going to have a higher tolerance for that because you are a potato plebe who has never been a PC gamer, so you don't understand what a mouse is. Seriously, Lex, consider for a moment that your entire life you have been playing fighting games the same amount that you've been playing fighting games, but you didn't know what a fight stick was, and you'd been using a racing wheel. I know you think I'm exaggerating that for comedic effect, but I'm not. That is exactly what playing a shooter without a mouse is like.
But it's not a shooter. It's not a shooter. Like these old your classic Resident Evil game.
Okay, maybe
that's not a shooter in as much.
I feel like it could have been. They just decided to give it really stupid controls. I will never forget my friend telling me about this game and how great it was. And when I bitched about the controls, he was like, "It's supposed to be that way, so you're more scared." And that was the dumbest thing I had ever heard. And I was like 12. That's true. I was like 12, and I was just like, no. It's just bad.
It makes sense. What I believe you're complaining about is the tank controls, which again I figured out at 8. So I don't know what your excuse is. But
I didn't say I couldn't use them.
No, of course you could use them. You could stop using a mouse and keyboard anytime you want. You just don't want to. You're drunk on power.
You need to understand how wrong you are. This will actually be what breaks us. You cannot use. There's a hitbox sitting on the floor next to this man right now. This man has talked to me so many motherfucking times about how the hitbox is just so much better and why wouldn't you use a hitbox? Which is fucking true. But a hitbox compared to a standard arcade stick is like a 90%, 100%. Okay. This is like hitbox compared to, I don't know, a racing wheel. That is the difference. Consider that it took them decades to make a game that was playable on a controller. Literally, GoldenEye and Time Crisis are the only reason console shooters exist, because every single developer agreed that it was not possible to make the game be playable on a controller. And the only reason that Halo became popular is because they turned the fucking auto aim up to 10,000, which is real because you literally cannot be accurate enough without auto aim. You can't. It's absurd how much worse a controller is at that than a mouse. I don't know how you could not recognize that. Like, it's so obvious.
I just got through playing Resident Evil Revelations yesterday.
You can play Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on a Rockstar guitar and do infinites. Your argument is invalid. It means nothing. You can do it on a fucking drum kit. I guess it's got
the D-pad. Okay.
You can do it on a drum kit.
Yeah, but okay. But none of those games.
You could drive to work on a shopping cart with a lawnmower attached to it. That doesn't mean that driving a car isn't infinitely better. It is.
Okay. Even if that's the case, whether or not it's the case, because it's not important.
You brought this upon yourself by insulting me about your 8-year-old understanding.
I'm just saying, if I figured it out at 8, that's between you and God.
I would have let it go if you didn't keep bringing that bullshit up every time.
So let me walk back. There's a real life technical limitation that caused Resident Evil and games like that to be the way that they are.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yes. Okay. So they couldn't load a whole mansion. Resident Evil, you fight zombies in a mansion. Turns out the mansion's a laboratory. Everything blows up. Great game. Every one of them is the exact same. I love them, but this is the case. They couldn't make a whole stage the same way that you see like a Super Mario 64 or whatever. Some comparable in terms of tech.
They didn't have the technology.
Right. So instead, the way that all of the screens are in Resident Evil, we call them fixed camera angles now that we're in 2020 and have nice words like that.
Yes.
But it's essentially a series of rooms right next to each other with like a solid flat background that you navigate based on where your character is. And you must use tank controls, or at least you had to back in the day.
Uh-huh.
The fixed camera angles serve a technical purpose, which is that it prevents them from having to load a whole 3D environment, which they wouldn't do until Resident Evil Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. So that's Resident Evil's like 1 through 3 and some odd.
Dreamcast was a pretty like advanced console, so I mean that makes sense.
Exactly,
it would have been at the leap. Yeah,
they couldn't do it. They did not have the stuff for it. So instead, what they did was they would draw like really pretty, especially for the era, backgrounds and just have you dance around it awkwardly. And so the purpose then for tank controls over. Have you ever played Kirby's Air Ride?
Shit. Yes, but it's been
so there's
so long.
There's two they call top star steering, where up is up and down is down and left is left and right is right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the swerve star, where up is forward, down is back, and left and right turn you. That's tank controls.
Yes.
The problem with having a Freestar perspective when you've got a fixed camera angle game is that when you move from one room to the next, what was up is no longer necessarily up, based on where the camera has now put you.
Because the camera angle's fixed.
Right.
Sure.
So you can then make the argument that tank controls don't make any sense to you. That's fine. If you have difficulty playing them, I don't want you to continue to have difficulty playing them that way. In the HD version of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0, which are available on everything, they have the option to switch your control from Swerve Star to steer or to Freestar or whatever.
Sure.
So if that's your only hang-up, you absolutely could play Resident Evil 1 and have a good time.
It's not my only hang-up, but it certainly is the biggest hang-up.
Sure.
And where I think I will. I think where I will have less of an issue is games like I really wanted to get into like Amnesia, The Dark Descent, but I literally played it for like 10 minutes and shit my pants and then just never went back to it.
Yep.
Which is good. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. That's high praise.
Good for that game.
I shat myself and I can't play anymore.
Yeah. Like and Amnesia had standard FPS controls and still managed to do, which is why it's so frustrating to me, because you clearly can do. I don't disagree with your hallmarks of the genre, but I also don't support your Resident Evil games because and this isn't your argument.
Because you don't know better. But
get out of here. This isn't your argument, but I've had plenty of people make that same argument that my friend did, which is that like the controls have to be that way because that's why it's scary. And it's just like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
They had to be that way because of fixed camera angles, which is the only way that they could fix all
I don't even agree with that, to be perfectly honest, because you could have had better controls for fixed camera angles. It's not like those are the only games that had fixed camera angles.
No, you're right. Other games, your Final Fantasy has a lot of fixed camera angles. The way you aim is shit and weird. The way you change inventory, you have to like hold. It was like when we were playing Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
Yeah, and
dear stream, I brought Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. If you know what that is, then you know how privileged Will is to be my friend. And this guy had so much difficulty playing a game.
It was unplayable.
Yeah,
those controls are a fucking alien spaceship that makes no sense. And I can't imagine anyone wanting to play a game with those controls. I guess I must
be an alien.
You are. You have spent a lot of sense. No, because you have spent years honing the craft of driving these shitty alien spaceships because you didn't know any better and you didn't have a fucking mouse. That's why. But like those games, in addition to just having shit general ability to move around and control your character, that's whatever. Okay, fine. I hate that, but that's like one part. The other part is that they also have like really weird menu systems that make no sense. Like, do you remember when I tried to put the gun away?
I do remember when you tried to put the gun away. And it was the funniest thing that ever happened because I'm
you have
so
to like,
sad that we couldn't
you have to like
that
hold A and then hit a
world.
thing, or I don't even remember what it was.
Yep.
But why? Why isn't there just a fucking button on the fucking controller that
this
opens
is a GameCube controller?
No, it's not. It's not. It's the game is designed that like the way those games are designed is I have so many. I don't even think it's a problem with. It's not a problem with the story. It's not a problem with the atmosphere. It's literally like a UX problem for me. Like I am a UX whore. I am if I am like, and I think a lot of people don't know that specifically about me, but like I really appreciate good user experience, and I cannot excuse shit user experience for stuff like that. And like because it's so easy to make something that isn't the most unintuitive thing in the entire world. Like it's very hard to make something that is like amazing in terms of your user interface and experience, but it's very easy for it to not just be complete garbage. And so when a game has a fucking user interface that is complete garbage, that you just like makes no sense, you can't, that it's a struggle to play the game.
You shouldn't struggle to play the game now.
I will not put time into it.
Okay.
I will not. I refuse to give that game my time.
I have great news for you, Will. There is a game that came out not too long ago. I want to say 2018 or so. A little indie title from an indie developer called Capcom. It's called Resident Evil 2. It's actually a remake, if you can believe this, of a game that came out in 1998. They have since updated the game to not use fixed camera angles.
Wow.
They don't have tank controls because apparently society has evolved beyond the need for tank controls.
As they should.
I guess if you can't figure it out, yeah, then you should.
I cannot fucking believe you're sitting here arguing about how your square wheeled barrels out of your cave. I'm over here. I've made a fucking round wheel out of stone, and you're over here like, oh well, I've been using square wheels my whole life. Like
my father and his father.
Oh God. I can't believe you're being elitist about square wheels.
I can't be elitist about it.
Oh my God.
So do everyone a favor and pick up Resident Evil, specifically Resident Evil 2. Because this is how you should get into the series. Play Resident Evil 2. It's an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter. They still managed to maintain a lot of the spirit and integrity of the original Resident Evil 2, which for people who could comprehend tank controls was just a phenomenal user experience. I was just sitting here looking at you in the eyes, trying to wait for when you were going to crack or say something or smirk. That took longer than I thought it was going to. Okay, so back on Resident Evil 2. It has great use of scarcity. You have to navigate a mansion, which is actually a laboratory because it's a Resident Evil game. What they do differently and excitingly in that, like in previous Resident Evil games, you pretty much explore these rooms at your leisure with the only obstacle or obstacles being the enemies that they put there. And like the zombies are scary because you can't easily shoot them to death and you've got a limited number of bullets. So you have to negotiate. Sometimes it's better to run and avoid than it is to deal damage and do combat every time. That used to be the only limiting reagent on your time in a room. In Resident Evil 2, they alter or play on or subvert that experience by introducing an unkillable enemy who chases you from room to room. Nemesis isn't 3, but he's also tired. You're not too far off. You did a good job.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. X is his name. He's a tall man in a trench coat, and he chases you from room to room. So while you're sitting there being like, do I have all of the puzzle pieces that I need? Should I move the bookcases a little to the left? He'll just come over and sock you.
That sounds horrible. I think I'll hate it.
Oh, it's great.
This is just like how when I was playing BioShock, I was in a room and I was like, I want to...
That's a survival horror game.
To look at... It has elements. It is not. It is not, but it does have elements. It is a game that has survival horror elements.
We agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It has like things in a room, and then I want to like read the writing on the wall or look at the pretty art or listen to what's being said, and then suddenly like a bunch of enemies spawn, and I can't pay attention to any of it.
You don't have to worry about them.
That's obnoxious.
Yes, that would be obnoxious, hypothetically. That's not so much the case in this one, because the zombies that are there, when you kill them, they go away. But that means that you've used your gun. So
yeah, but then this other dude shows up, and I got to leave the room, and I'm trying to admire the scenery.
You got plenty of time to admire the scenery before Mr. X shows up.
Okay, so it's a long delay. How much time do I have?
There's a goodly amount of... Well, Jen played the game for like 2 or 3 hours, and she stopped like right before she got to Mr. X, and I was really excited to see her get socked by Mr. X. So... right before she got to him. Yeah, you play until Mr. X...
So he doesn't chase you?
He does chase you after you encounter him the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, and not until that point. And like, you've still got options. Once he starts chasing, if you really want to be in a room and like look at all the textures on the wall or whatever, you could shoot him and slow him down and then like run away. Or you could use your cunning and your ability to navigate a map to find a specific route to get out and like lose him. And then he'll take a minute to find you.
I feel like whether I would like that or not would depend on, how much the game wanted me to take in the scenery. Because there's certainly something fun and exhilarating about trying to escape a thing that's chasing you.
Yes.
I've certainly done encounters like that in games that are very fun.
Yeah.
My problem with BioShock specifically is it was just like, behold, a pretty world that we are so proud of and that everyone fillets themselves to. And look how wonderful it is. And oh god, there's 50,000 enemies attacking me and I can't even look at it. And they would do that specifically whenever people started like talking and doing dialogue, and I'd be like, I have no idea what you just said. I can't multitask while I'm getting attacked by a fucking zombie.
Not an issue in this one.
Yeah, if Resident Evil is the kind of game where where you appropriately pace it, and I am chased by Mr. X at a time that it isn't obnoxious when I don't feel like I need to be doing something else to understand what's going on with the story, then it wouldn't bother me at all.
By the time he shows up, you mostly have a sense of the rhythm of the game. So like you've had plenty of time to go around.
It's well paced then.
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah, it's super important. That's part of the reason why Resident Evil 2 is such a good gateway drug into the survival horror franchise. They've got like files, like part of, I think, the charm of a survival horror game is the way that they can present the mystery of the game, regardless of like how good the story is. The way that they can sort of suck you in through ambiance and whatever, with like files sitting around or people, like backgrounds and stuff that you would have liked to spend time in BioShock looking at. You get plenty of time to do that, and by the time you know, I need to get these specific things in order to open the door to very obviously go where I'm going, then Mr. X shows up and says, "Hi, I am a new element to this issue that you have." He doesn't talk, but if he did, he'd say that.
That'd be what he said. Yeah, and like I definitely have enjoyed parts of games that I like that have survival horror sections or elements to them. But I just feel like the only games that I've played that have been like super duper, like definitely that genre is, like I said, Amnesia, which one of these days...
Too spooky for you. Maybe you'll go back.
No, I need to replay it because I have to be in the right mood for a single player game, much less a super scary single player game. But I need to play that. But then also, what's it? I played Eternal Darkness on the GameCube, which I think I've told you about in the past.
Did you think that one was too far up its ass? Is that what you told me about Eternal Darkness? Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of survival horror games come off that way to me. They come off as like...
pretentious?
Yeah.
You won't have that issue with Resident Evil just because the threat is usually zombies are bad because capitalism is the devil. And like that's an easy enough premise to get behind. But if you're worried about something, if I'm trying to recommend a game to you that I think you wouldn't enjoy, Silent Hill 2 is great. But it's that sort of cerebral up its own ass thing where... I
mean, I like some pretentious shit if it's like either done well or funny, or like there's definitely some pretentious shit which I still can't talk to you about in Pillars of Eternity because you haven't played it.
I have it though. I bought it.
You have it.
Yeah.
There's some pretentious shit in that for sure, but like I think it earns it.
Sure. Okay. Well then,
I feel like
maybe you'll be fine with
it.
Silent
It
Hill.
depends on how it's done. You know what I mean? Like there's that in like the Max Payne games too. I mean that's kind of like, I feel like honestly pretense is like 90% of the film noir genre, which Max Payne draws a lot from.
And maybe that's why I don't have so much of an issue with pretentiousness in games.
I wouldn't come away from this with me saying that I have an issue with it. I think it, like I said, it depends on how it's done. And so for me, like when I played Eternal Darkness, I just remember everybody thinking it was so good, and it was just weird mechanics that it didn't feel like I was trying to escape or get out of a situation where I didn't have a good option. It just felt like the game was janky. And then the game was like, haha, you fucking idiot, you've gone insane now because you didn't do a thing. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. Like, how can you be this pretentious? But if the game is like, you're fucked, you gotta run like a bitch now, and then my response is, oh my god, I'm fucked, I gotta run like a bitch, then like, okay, jack yourself off, game, good job.
You did it, you've earned it.
Or, but like, if the game is just like confusing and weird and you keep dying to shit that you don't even... I can't... Okay, here we go. I can't suspend my disbelief. It kills the suspension of disbelief if the reason the game is hard or difficult is because the game doesn't make sense, is confusing, and
or has bad controls.
And fights me at every step of the way.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't be vested in the game because the game is just... It doesn't want me to play it. And it's like, I'm just annoyed. And so I can't be scared because I'm annoyed. Meanwhile, one of the biggest scares I've ever had in my life was like delving through some tomb in Morrowind, which is an Elder Scrolls game. For those of you that don't know.
Okay.
And I remember it was like when I was in early high school probably or something. I don't even remember. So old, but it was when my computer was in we have like a downstairs family room with like, we had like our main TV and like the second TV. So like you either like mom and dad would watch something upstairs and kids would watch downstairs or vice versa. And I remember my brother was like watching something on the TV behind me while I was playing, and I had like cleared out this tomb, and he asked me something, and we were talking, and then like out of the corner of my eye, this fucking ghost comes up, and it wasn't like it just like waltzed in. It like, and I don't think this was intentional, but they have like a hit animation where they kind of like they like duck and like swoop up.
Yeah.
And I guess it had done that, and I didn't see, and it just kind of like went like woo, like right in front of my screen. And I'm in the middle of this conversation with my brother, and it happens, and I just go, ah! Like I'm just like freaking the fuck out because like I thought I was like good and so I don't know, like that's not a survival horror game, but there are horror elements to Elder Scrolls games. There are a lot of suspenseful horror type. You go into a dungeon, and it suddenly, you know what I mean? So yeah, I like that.
Having
I can dig that.
But on you like that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure, but also just my point is like it's not. I think that's kind of my problem with horror in general is I feel like a lot of things when they are just straight horror become try hard. And the horror movies that I have liked the most, I say movies because I don't know games. There aren't even really that many I can name. Sure. But movie wise, it's like, you know, like Army of Darkness is great. It's definitely horror, but it's like comedy horror.
Yeah, it's comedy horror.
You know? And then all of the things that are horror that I have liked aren't full horror. They're like, in my opinion, thriller horror, which is like your Get Out or whatever. Full horror, taking itself seriously.
Not your thing?
I don't know. I'm not saying it couldn't be.
Yeah. Not that you couldn't have something
but
that
I
you
feel
enjoyed,
like more
just
often
that
than
not,
not, whether it's a movie or a game, it ends up coming across as like thinking it's hotter than it is, and therefore I have a hard time taking it seriously and being vested in it. So here's what I want, scientifically speaking. Okay. I want you to play Resident Evil 2. Okay. Yeah, you don't actually have to do this, but this is what is interesting to me. I did play BioShock. You did? Despite the odds. You got other shit. Yeah. Okay. You could be doing this. I could do it. Play Resident Evil 2 so that you have the best introduction to the genre, so that's that you're not. I want to slam that's first. The one. Yeah, okay. Do that one because that'll prepare you for. Go back and play Resident Evil 1 HD and make sure that you've got Steer Star rather than Swerve Star. Okay. So that the tank controls don't fight you and that you're the most capable at that point of enjoying Resident Evil 1. Because Resident Evil 1 is Resident Evil 1 HD specifically is the best survival horror game. Bar none. Like, even though Resident Evil 2 is a better game, it's Resident Evil 1... It's less polished, but it's the better game. Yeah. That makes sense. They totally nailed the genre. Like, they figured it out back in 1998, and that's why Resident Evil is what it is. But Resident Evil 1 HD, that's the shit. And then play Resident Evil 4, and then if you like it, let's fight. That's too many games. Yeah, no, and that's why this is for science. Which is to say, we'll never get around to it. But there's a good chance I could try that 2 remake or whatever. Yeah. These days. Do that. We'll figure the rest of it out. Yeah, whatever one is the most approachable definitely makes the most sense. People tell you that Resident Evil 4 is the most approachable because it's actually an action game dressed up as a survival horror game instead. You know how Get Out, you're saying, is a thriller horror rather than a horror? Yes. Resident Evil 4 ruined survival horror as a genre. It's just action horror. Yeah. Everyone was like, oh, cool, it's the newest survival horror Resident Evil game. But it's no longer survival horror because it has too many action elements. It's an action game. Yeah, That means it probably has good controls. It's still technically got tank controls. No, but that argument makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I think that what you're talking about with like resources and stuff. Yep. This is not pure horror, but or not pure survival horror, but it is certainly action survival horror. But I think it has more survival horror than anything I've played. Which I don't know why this didn't come to mind. But the Left 4 Dead series. Yeah, that's so on the heels of Resident Evil 4. Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like that. Yeah. So, and those are, like I said, I've never gotten into a full-on one. So, I would assume Resident Evil 4 is still weirder with regard to controls and stuff. Yes, but for sure. Specifically, Left 4 Dead has a lot of resource management. You can't have enough resources to do certain things, and the horde is always coming. And then you have to appreciate like the witches. Like Left 4 Dead isn't really a survival horror as much. It's not. It does have aspects. It's not, but it is an action survival horror game. But the segments where you hear a witch. That's survival horror. Yeah. For sure. Because when you hear her, suddenly the entire environment changes. You're dealing with the scarcity of information. Suddenly you have to take stock of the ammunition. Do I have to, trying to negotiate where she is so that you can figure out if you should go through her or around her, and it's probably around her. Yep. Almost always. Yeah. That's exciting. That's survival horror. That's the experience that I want you to have with all these other games I'm talking about. You won't get it from 4. But That makes sense. Yeah, but man, it doesn't surprise me that they would try to make a Resident Evil either that was not really a survival horror game.
Yeah,
because it is.
It's part of why it's
a really
the way
niche genre.
Yeah,
part of why what?
So Resident Evil has a really jagged development history that I can't entirely get into, just because so much of it is they tried to make Resident Evil 3 and it didn't happen, but they made it anyway. So like Code Veronica is actually Resident Evil 3, but they didn't make Resident Evil 3 when they made it. Resident Evil 4 was kind of supposed to be Resident Evil 3, except it wasn't. But when they tried to make Resident Evil 4 instead, it came out as a weird cerebral survival horror where you were stalked by a ghost. But then they didn't make it and that got canceled. But then they made Resident Evil 4 and it was an over-the-shoulder, still tank controls, but it's still an action game. Yeah.
There's the cocaine.
Yeah, there's the coke.
We found it.
Was it over there that whole time?
Yeah.
But the point is, you remember I said at the top of this, Resident Evil is a game where you go to a mansion and there are zombies and you fight them, but it's actually a laboratory and then you blow up the bad guy with a rocket launcher and it's all the same. Resident Evil 4 isn't that. It is, but it isn't. You go to a village and there are like cultists there instead of proper zombies.
I think I remember seeing reviews for that. That one's not that old, right? Like maybe
like 2004, I think.
Well, okay, never mind. Maybe I'm thinking of 5 then.
Resident Evil 5 is bad. Resident Evil 5 is worse than Resident Evil 4, but okay. Wait, I know you're trying to hang up. I know you're trying to kill the feed, but I'm going to scream real quick.
Okay, do it.
Resident Evil 4 ruined the genre. It ruined Resident Evil for the next, several games.
Okay.
It stopped being a survival horror game and started being an action game with horror elements. But it was fun. And that's what people got hung up on. And that's what Capcom got hung up on. And that's why Resident Evil 5 and 6, but mostly 5.
Shitting on the genre doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game.
No, it is a good game. Empirically, Resident Evil 4 is one of the best. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't appreciate that with any genre.
It's hard for people to say it's
because you can have a game be really fucking good and it can just not be.
Yeah. Well, even beyond that,
thing.
It's a real shit survival horror game because it barely has any survival horror aspects. But I'll be damned if it isn't fun. And then they caught lightning in a bottle for Resident Evil 4, and they said we could do this again for Resident Evil 5. Let's just get Chris and you remember how he was sort of a slender boy who walked around in a mansion?
He's beef now.
Give him roids. That's what the Americans want. That's what the people need. Make him big and punch rocks.
I mean, that is sort of. This is a way different tangent, but I feel like every you remember have you ever looked at an actor in the 90s, an action star other than Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
They're just dudes that
you could counter Reeves.
They're just dudes that are in good shape.
Yep.
But now every
Chris
fucking
Evans.
Dude is so
Kumail Nanjiani.
So roided up, dude.
That's the Marvel diet, air quotes diet.
I mean, okay, but god damn, man, can we just have a Jason Statham again at some point? No. Like just some dude that's not completely.
Jason Statham is on the muscular end of normal dude.
Yeah, I know.
He's an Olympic swimmer.
That's my point.
Yeah, okay.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
We're so far beyond even Jason Statham, who is in really fucking good shape.
Kumail Nanjiani could punch a boulder to death, much like Chris Redfield.
Well, he roided the fuck. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, that's the Marvel diet for you. But so Resident Evil 5, the reason why it's so bad. And they said it was a survival horror, but where it was a white lie with Resident Evil 4, this was a malicious lie in Resident Evil 5. The game is just it's a lot of fun, and that's what we're going to stream next on my personal Twitch channel, and I'm really looking forward to it.
On Professor Lex, not on
twitch.tv/Professor Lex. That's me.
There it is.
Yeah.
Follow this man. Follow this man.
Please. I'm looking forward to playing it. The game is for shit. It's not very well balanced. But you point your gun at zombies, not people, and shoot them a lot, and that's rewarding, and that's that's the best that I can say about it. It's clunky, the controls are weird, it's not very well written. Chris
you think your
Redfield,
8-year-old self could have figured the controls out?
Yeah, because he's pretty bright.
You must be. You got those tank controls.
You got the tank controls down. This is nothing compared to that.
Those square wheels, baby.
But I said Chris punches a boulder. This isn't an exaggeration or hyperbole if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Chris Redfield gets into a volcano and literally there's a boulder that falls down and he punches it to death. He punches the boulder so hard that it splits and falls, and then he can move to the next objective. That's a quick time event. You mash square, and Chris Redfield punches a boulder until it dies. That's where the game actually went. And Resident Evil 6 was like a half step up from Resident Evil 5 just because they made it not as horrible to play, but it still wasn't a survival horror. And we didn't get back on track until Resident Evil 7, which is a first-person shooter, and you probably like that anyway.
Oh, yeah, that sounds much better.
Yeah.
Is that one on PC?
Yeah, of course it is. They're all on PC. Play Resident Evil 2. Get an appreciation. Put some hair on your chest.
I'll probably
drink some scotch.
Scotch.
Yeah, drink some scotch video game.
Barrel aged.
But yeah,
survival horror.
That's my rant. People who don't like Resident Evil should play Resident Evil 2, and if they still don't like Resident Evil after that, I can't help them. The Lord can't help those who won't help themselves.
I might hit that up at one of these points just for the sake of understanding the topic. Sure. But there's a good chance. I mean, if it's anywhere near as bad as that fucking Metal Gear game.
It's not. It can't be. You're safe.
There is like a whole, I need to figure out like a colloquial term to use for that whole, there's like a whole series of really horrible controlled console
early
quote unquote
2000s.
Shooters and the early 2000s. There are so many games like that like I just
struggle with.
People talk to me about like liking those games, and I just feel like I'm from another fucking planet. I cannot imagine. No,
no. I'm as sure as I am that I'm 5'10" 3/4. I am positive I was born on Earth.
There are a lot of people that fucking hate those games. I assure you. You were just under a rock your entire life for never having a computer. I promise you are.
They made a PC port of Metal Gear Solid, the original.
I'm building you a computer one of these days. You know that, right? Okay.
Fight.
I will.
You don't have to twist my arm on that one. Right. That's okay.
All right. Well, I think that's about going to do it for this week. But we'll catch you guys next week when hopefully we talk about
something else fun that also isn't like sexual assault related.
Yeah. Jesus.
Sorry.
Yes, that's yeah. This has been a good week of not talking about what we talked about last week.
Hell yeah.
So hopefully we continue that
Video
trend.
games, butts. You didn't give a butt update.
There's a chick.
Happy butts?
There's a chick who's cool, and I think she's neat, and I hope she likes my butt.
I'm so happy for you, Will.
We'll see.
I'm so happy.
I'm supposed to do something with her this weekend.
I've got my fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But maybe she'll be like the one girl who just like fucked off and never responded after me feeling that way. So
there's the sadness. We covered butts, sadness,
we covered
video
the butts
games,
and we're good. So, Anyway, all right. I have been MetalMusicMan,
and I've been Professor Lex,
and we will catch you guys next time. Bye.